The internet has been up and down all day. I noticed that earlier. And I was trying to read the board agenda. Yeah, I ended up having to keep logging in. The internet has been up and down, all freeze up in the middle. I noticed that earlier. And I was trying to read the board agenda. Yeah, I ended up having to keep logging in. The internet has been up and down, all freeze up in the middle. I noticed that earlier. And I was trying to. You froze it, you paused it. You paused it.
And it's not the view we normally see. We could normally see who's in.
This rental car is so boring to drive.
Let's be honest. The rent-a-car industry is the definition of boring, and
So go to the bottom right hand corner. All the way over, right there, click it. And then.
Back. Yeah.
And then go live.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Oh, maybe because we need to reopen the YouTube again?
Zoom. Oh,
So very interesting, because we're in Zoom.
that's right.
And it's live on YouTube, so I think we're okay. Yeah, I think we're okay.
Okay. We're going to give this a try.
Please report in if you don't see us on
Yes.
TV.
I will reconvene into open session at 6:06. And there was no action taken in closed session to report on. So we will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we are on comment session, item number 6, comments and announcements by board members. I wanted to take this opportunity to report out that Dr. Holtum and I and 3 other board members had the honor of attending the California School Board Association's annual education conference a couple of weeks ago. We attended a variety of professional development sessions full of resources and ideas to strengthen our ability to serve our district and our students as governing board members. For me personally, I especially appreciated the sessions on equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I know that we as a district have been working on this for the past couple of years, and we've taken great strides towards being more inclusive towards our diverse student community. But I think we can do better. And Dr. Holtum and I will be participating in the California School Board Association's equity network training called Governance with an Equity Lens. And so it's a 3-month training, and I'm glad and proud to be participating in that, and look forward to reporting back on that to everyone. And Sandra Barnes.
So I just want to say happy holidays to everybody. I didn't focus on the equity portion. I focused on more the legislative portion. I was very interested in what the new administration, the federal administration, is going to look like and what impact that's going to have on school systems as a whole. At that time, a lot of seats were still up in the air. And so there was a lot of conjecture about whether or not we were going to have, like it was leaking, we're going to have a lot of support for the educational systems. But that the one takeaway I really remember was the fact that the budgetary committee is going to be heralded by two people who have spent their careers fighting for education, and all four of them happen to be women who have children or had children in schoolage in schools. So that speaks volume to the optimism, irregardless of their politics, in our favor. I did want to mention that today is the 10-year anniversary of the Sandy Hook tragedy. And right as we were entering the OCESD, the CSBA conference, we had another tragedy of suicide in our district. And so that was, all of this is along on the forefront. And when I first started on the board was right on the heels of Sandy Hook and Bill 2. And so at the forefront of our minds when we both first started was mitigating special, SEL learning, social emotional learning for the kiddos, trying to reduce their trauma, trying to assist them through their trauma. And here we and make our school sites safer. And here we are 10 years later, and our school sites are safer and our kids are better supported. And now we're looking back on it and saying, hey, we've done some good work. We've done some good work as a result. So.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Jessica, Anthony.
I didn't have a focus, rather a general message that I received. I was really inspired by Brandon Fleming and his speaking and his stage presence and his book Miseducated. I wrote down just some key or some messages that he sent that really struck a chord with me and were very loud. He said stories are the gateway to empathy. Teachers know the content they are to teach, but are they getting to know their students? And children are shaped by circumstances that they did not choose. And the whole idea of his message was that he was not inspired by school until one teacher pushed the paper aside and said, I want to get to know you. And so there was this big, nurturing feeling of, what can we do in our schools to make sure every child is feeling important and nurtured so that internally they can turn that externally to their performances and their peers and everybody around them. So I was really grateful and I felt really inspired by that. And then that actually was going back to staff and making sure we're taking care of our staff, because they cannot truly care for our students if they themselves need nurturing as well. So with that, I would like to push forward in having a nurturing environment in all of our school sites and making sure that we're getting to know our students and our teachers on a level beyond content. So I felt really good about that.
Thank you. Lisa Torres.
I was be involved in the You know, it's. I just want to wish everybody a happy.
Thank you. Bill LeGrone?
I have no comments at this time.
Okay. Right, and now comments and announcements by administration. Dr. Holton.
Well, first of all, I'd like to excuse both of my assistant soups, Janet and Andrew. They were out ill this evening. But I have a number of great things to share with the board and the community this evening. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Bill and Lisa on their new candidacy, 4 more years on our board. They do great work, as do the rest of our board. So thank you for your service. I was able to go with our board members to the California School Boards Association conference a couple weeks ago and had a really great experience. And one of the best parts of the whole conference is the opportunity to go to lunch and dinner with our school board members and get to know them on more of a personal level, but also just to attend sessions with them and talk about the things that we're learning and what we can do in this district to become better. So thank you for that. Last night, I was able to attend the Ishii Hills and Studios at Central band concert at the State Theater. And I'm going to tell you, that place was packed last night. And I didn't realize how many band students we have in this district. We have a ton of new band students. The whole right, if you're looking at the stage, the whole right section was full of students.
Nice.
That are new band. I couldn't believe it. And parents filled the rest of the State Theater, and it was really empowering. And I was really encouraged by the amount and the quality of work. So kudos to our new band teacher and all of our students that are going down that road. Very exciting. I got a really great email this afternoon that starting when we get back on the 3rd of January, that we will have the Stanford Avenue and Ishii Hills Middle School bus route back.
Wonderful.
That serves more of our downtown area, Boulder Creek, and that part of town. So have a number of parents that will be happy to hear about that. And we will be posting that bus route on our website, and we will also be sending out a all call to parents, because that's really good news for us. I wanted to wish everybody a wonderful holiday season, and that's all I have tonight. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. And Holly Gutierrez.
Good evening. I guess I just have positives. I wear a lot of hats in the district. So part of that is being assistant principal at the studios in Ishii. And both of these middle schools have put on their first dance. The studios, it was on the 27th of October. So it was a Halloween theme. They all wore their costumes and that was super fun. And just on the 2nd of December was Ishii Middles. And theirs was a winter wonderland kind of ball. I believe they called it. And it was just wonderful to see our students there and happy and dancing and just doing things that our students should be doing and interacting with each other. And thank you to everyone for all the support. There was tons of staff members there. There was a lot of volunteers at both of them, from the community to parents. And we even had, I think Shauna Butler set up for the high school to come and a mentor at Ishii Middle. So that was nice. They supervised outside and inside and different things. So it was wonderful. It was a great time.
Okay, thank you. All right, and now it's time for comments for the public. So at this time, the board will extend an invitation to interested parties who wish to speak on matters which are school related. For those attending remotely who wish to comment, use the raise your hand feature to be called on to speak. Comments or questions may also be emailed to backpack@ocesd.net. Please include your first and last name in your email. Comments and questions received will be read into the record and or addressed during the meeting. However, comments received without the sender's name will not be read or shared during the meeting. Dr. Holtum, do we have any messages online or emails?
I do not.
Okay, and no one has raised their hand online. Is there any from the public?
So if I'm not mistaken, there should be public comment on action items.
Yeah, but I don't see it. Is it?
It's
Oh, okay.
at that point.
Yeah, we can open up. I don't see comments on for this one though. Oh, number 8.
Right. Public comments on action items comes before all of before we start the new business.
Okay.
When we adopt the
Look at that.
calendar year, then we'll open.
Okay. All right, so then we will move on to item number 7, annual organizational meeting, nominations and election of board president.
Any volunteers?
I'm willing to serve again unless somebody else is interested.
Considering the poll that I have, I think you would be an awesome candidate. I'm terrified. Every single time I've been board president, we've had an apocalypse. The only thing left now is war and.
Don't
Right,
say
we don't
that.
want that. No.
I don't get a vote in the matter, but let's just keep it status quo then.
Yeah. Okay, is there motion on the floor
So moved
for,
for Miss Sharon to be president again.
I second that.
okay, any discussion? All right, then we will vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So motion carries with 5 yes votes. All right, and now nomination and election of board vice president. Do we have any nominees or volunteers?
I'd like to nominate myself.
There you go.
All right. Lisa, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for board vice president? Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Did we get a second? I'm sorry.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, and now all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carries with 5 yes votes. And congratulations to Lisa on being our board vice president.
Thank you.
All right, nomination and election of board clerk. Any nominations or volunteers?
You want to continue being clerk?
I feel comfortable continuing
Okay,
the
There you go.
position.
Okay. I make a motion that Jessica become the clerk again.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries with 5 yes votes. Thank you, Jessica, for being our clerk for another year. And now we will appoint the secretary to the Board of Trustees.
That's me.
Yes.
I make a motion that Spencer be the secretary.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? All right, Dr. Holtum is appointed to be Secretary of the Board of Trustees. Item 5, adopt location, starting time, and schedule of board meetings for the 2023 calendar year. I did have one conflict, and I wondered if you would consider changing the April meeting if that's possible. April 19th, I am out of town at a conference for work. Wondered if it could possibly be the week before. It's the week after Easter, but I did not look at the calendar to see when spring break was.
Easter is the 9th.
The 12th, if possible, if it's not spring break. Right.
It is spring
Oh,
break.
it is.
Now, does that,
Or could,
we
do it the week before?
we typically don't do it on the week of spring break.
I don't know what has changed as far as the ability to log in via Zoom. I know that there was going to be a change in that for board members. If I have the ability to do that, I can. Oh, so it wouldn't work.
No, you
would. You
can't.
have
You just have
to.
to put it in writing so
Yeah.
many days in advance. And
Oh,
it has to
okay.
be.
It has to be approved by the board.
Okay,
Right.
all right, then we can do that.
And then you can't like use it again for another.
Yeah, it's like
there's
twice.
Without
two
board
months or
approval,
without
yeah.
board approval
Got it.
within that year.
Easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so are there any other changes or concerns or questions on the schedule, the proposed schedule for the meetings for the year?
Madam President, if I could just ask for one thing,
Mhm.
we shorten our closed session and come into open session at 5:30 as opposed to 5:45?
And still start at 5.
Yes, sir. Just start at 5, just shorten that. Sometimes it seems like we're filling time because we're trying to meet the schedule as opposed to
I don't want to talk about closed session, but you,
blaming it on me. I'm filling time.
You're in trouble.
If everybody doesn't mind, if you want to leave it the way it is, I'm fine with that too. It was just a suggestion.
We have to be very disciplined about staying.
On task.
Mhm.
that works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, is there a motion to approve the schedule of board meetings for 2023 with the change in, well, that's not even included, so with no changes, correct?
Correct.
At the time.
A start time of 5 o'clock.
With the start time of 5 o'clock.
And then we can just, on our board agendas, make it from 5 to 5:30.
Is there a motion to approve the
So
schedule?
moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries with 5 votes. Okay, now we move on to the action session with public comments on action items. So the board will extend an invitation to interested parties who wish to speak on items that are listed on the agenda. For those attending remotely who wish to comment, use the raise your hand feature to be called on to speak. Comments may also be emailed to backpack@ocesd.net. Please include your first and last name in your email. Comments received that pertain to items listed on the agenda will be read into the record during this time. However, comments received without the sender's name will not be read. The Brown Act does not allow the governing board to discuss or take action on any item that is not on the posted agenda. Do we have any emails to read? Dr. Holton?
No.
No emails. Okay, and no hands online. So our members of our public, welcome to please come forward.
I was comparing
Could you please
the,
just state your name?
I'm Beth, former chair. Thank you. Looking at the special education board policy that you guys are looking at draft and then redoing, and I had some questions regarding some of it. Hopefully I have
I'm
those
sorry,
correct.
Beth.
Yes.
It's an administrative,
Administrative.
Administrative regulation.
yeah, sorry.
So it's not a board policy.
Oh, okay. Isn't it? No, okay. So I have some questions about it. I said it wrong. So the one was looking at the new language that has interns. In the first paragraph of interns, at one point it mentions if the teacher has not obtained permanent status, the superintendent or designee shall assign one or more experienced educators in the special education subject area of the permit who have at least 3 years of full-time teaching experience in the subject area of the permit to provide guidance and assistance to the permit holder. I was looking for a little explanation on that. It seemed a little vague, as if the superintendent could just assign a teacher another job to then be a trainer of someone else.
I believe that's specific to the mentor for induction. Is that what that's related to?
Yeah, I don't, that's not exactly how I
Okay,
read it.
because I was
but-
reading it differently, so it seemed a little unclear, like it could just be assigned to someone to take this position. Doesn't say like voluntary or I guess to me, it read differently, so I'm reading it different than you are.
Okay, so when we have interns,
Mhm.
they are required to have specific mentor teachers. And so when that would happen, if there were a problem, there could be a possible reassignment. But typically, once they start with their mentor teacher, that's who they stay with.
All interns are required to have a mentor assigned in order to obtain an intern credential.
I agree that. I guess I read it kind of like they could just assign someone to do that instead of perhaps it needs to be a voluntary thing where you can't just come up and tell me I have to do it. That's what it sounded like to me here. So that's how I read it. So yeah, I understand you're not saying that, but I'm saying it's me reading it.
Mhm.
That's what I heard. That's what I saw. So that's my comment.
Well, and we would follow our collective bargaining agreement as it
Mhm.
pertains to, interns and assigning of interns and anything like that. So it wouldn't just be, us going, oh, today you have one, tomorrow you have a different one. If it's not working out, that's not the intent.
Are you looking for more clear language?
I guess I would. To me,
Concrete
it sounded like
sentence?
a teacher could just be assigned to be a mentor to somebody. That's what I read kind of that way. So I understand your clarification.
Okay, so the clarification verbally, so would it be in best interest to verbalize that in writing in a more clear way? So that,
Sure, policy. Good. And then I had a second question. On the last page of the regulation, I was gonna say policy, so sorry, regulation. There is a section about speech caseloads. I couldn't find that in the one prior that I looked up. It looked like it was a new section. Is that correct? Not sure. It looked like it was added. Or does that come from somewhere else? When I looked at the last regulation, that was 2009, I didn't see the section about the average caseload for speech and hearing. It just kind of ended at the resource one.
So this is a new policy. There are some state guidelines when it comes
Right.
to speech caseloads. I would have to probably sit down and, because this is kind of an index of links that we could look at. And so I'm happy to sit down and talk to you about that specific link that you're talking about. But
It's not the
don't.
link that I'm talking about. This was the old one I pulled up and this was the new one. So I pulled
But
this
were
up.
you looking at the board policy or the administrative regulation? Because I think this is a new
It would be a
one.
different one going
Yeah.
through. Okay. Well, looking at that section in there, I have a concern. It basically says it shall not exceed 55, and that's been the ed code. So there is no, sorry, I keep looking at one way. There is no class size language for resource and speech because it's been ed code. And so that's what it has to been. So my concern is that here, and it, perhaps it is ed code, and this, I thought that ed code referred to the second one, that basically if the SELPA decides it can be higher, they can just do that. I get, so that was a concern for me. I've never heard that before. Is that something new?
Well, we've always followed the, I've always followed the state education code. I'm not familiar. I'd have to ask our SELPA director about that specifically. As the SELPA chair, that's never been a topic of conversation in any of our meetings for the last 5 years that I've been there as far as changing or looking at that.
The language in here says it won't exceed 55, which is what ed code is, unless the SELPA plan specifies a higher average and states the reason why, basically. So I just had never heard that before and wondering why we were going by SELPA. I thought the ed code reference was to the speech and language with children 3 to 5. So is that unclear?
So there is a different number for students 3 to 5 in the education code. And so based off of this is a regulation, what we have to follow. We do follow the state education code. Now the SELPA can make adjustments. But right now we're following the state education code just as it reads here.
Okay, I'm not sure if I'm just, maybe it's just me. So I guess my concern is that because we don't have language about it and it states here, it's 55, unless SELPA decides more, it's difficult for me to tell my members that, well, SELPA decided you can have 65 and they think it's just what happens and now that's what you get. So I find this unclear because I don't think the ed code goes to that sentence. And if I just would wonder if that could be checked because I'm concerned that it's not. I guess I'm just worried about that.
I think it's worth looking into before we approve it.
I certainly can look into it. It doesn't. The other thing is when it comes to class size, we can also look at it as part of our CBA.
It just hasn't been because it's always been ed code, so we've stuck with it. But this feels to me like this allows an opening for SELPA to just say, well, this year we don't have any speech teachers, and so now your load is going to be 65.
California Ed Code reads that language exactly.
It does.
Special
it's the whole thing.
education. Local plan areas shall not exceed 55 unless local plan specifies higher average caseload.
Thank you.
Yada, yada.
Beth, can you answer a question for me? I
Of
mean,
course.
because I'm a lot
That's why I
ignorant
didn't
on
know
this.
what it was.
When you say that unless the ed code allows more than 65, we're not talking about 65 children in a class, are we?
No, it's a caseload for speech therapists.
So you may
Right,
have
so-
65 students.
We have 55 right now.
Or 55. Okay. So I just want to make sure that we're not talking about all of a sudden, we're going to load up a classroom with 55 students. I mean,
No.
that's
But that
That's an
still is a huge
impossible
load
task.
for them.
Yeah.
55 is a lot for students.
yeah.
And
I just
it
wanna be-
bothers me.
I just wanna be clear
Thank you
about
for
what
the
we're-
clarification on the ed code.
Well, and just so that we're clear with the board as far as where the district stance is, we've load our speech therapists with no more than 55. Some of them have less than that. There is a provision in the education code that if you have students 3 to 5, that there's kind of a prorated, so they have a lower average. Holly's here. I've never had a conversation where we'd ever consider going above 55. One, because it's ed code, and two, because I feel like 55 is that's a threshold for a reason. I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
There's a loophole there.
Mhm.
Okay. And we will consider that. But right now I want to let you know that we have no intentions of or ever talked about exercising that loophole.
And it
Dr.
sounds like that's the way it's reported in ed code
That's how it
anyway.
says.
Is it possible to amend that and just to add in there with, if SELPA decides that the house also requires board approval? That way there's our educational staff could come back to us and if this were to happen and make an argument as to why this shouldn't happen.
That
I
absolutely.
don't know if we should be amending these or not. I mean, this is.
Well, can we add that to Ed Code? If Ed Code says SELPA has the ability to do that, can the board override Ed Code? I don't think
And
so.
SELPA is county. SELPA is not local. I mean.
I think we have a right to be more restrictive. We can't be less restrictive.
Mm.
I mean, so I think that we can add
For the
layers, but I don't think we can remove layers.
Bill's absolutely right.
Okay.
We can do things like that. We can't. Yeah, just like Bill stated, that is exactly right. And we can put in that language because the SELPA can do something, but within our jurisdiction, you can override that because you're the governing board of this district.
It may make our professionals too a little more comfortable with that language if they know they have some sort of recourse in the event that this did happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else have any public comments from the floor? All right, we will move on to consent agenda. Any discussion or questions on the consent agenda items?
I have a couple of comments.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to welcome all the personnel recommended that are coming on board. Congratulate them. The second thing I like to say is, did you see the attendance agreements?
Yeah.
There's only two
Two.
transfers. It's almost a waste. That's awesome. I was shocked. That was cool. Middle school after school team coach stipend request. I noticed that we had athletic team coach, temporary team coach certifications. What was the other one for? Do we have someone assisting with the band as well? I mean, if we have so many,
Oh, yeah.
so many students.
So in the classroom or
After, it was for a stipend for additional outside the classroom for band, I believe it
Yeah,
was.
music instruction.
so do we have
Or
anybody
is
at this
that
time?
a separate music instructor that's
No,
for a music class?
what I believe, I'll get more clarification, but what I believe that's for is when we do band things outside the school day and we need additional people because we have such a large band that there's a stipend available if someone wants to, go to parades with them, or last night
Okay.
when there's
Chaperone.
chaperones and things of that nature.
Okay.
That's what I believe that's for.
Okay, any other questions on the consent agenda? I just wanted to clarify the agreement for SELPA, the facility. It's a 10-year lease. That's the term, correct?
For Bases property, it's a 10-year lease, but there is an out clause for both sides if we need to get out of that lease within a year.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any further discussion or questions? We'll move to the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries with 5 yes votes. New business? Select a date for the board study session, December 14th, 2022? No, that's today. February 1st, 2023 at 5 o'clock.
I'm like, I don't think Bill wants to stay afterwards.
Any discussion on that date and time for a board study session? Wednesday,
1st.
February 1st at 5 p.m.
Is this going to be part training? Brown Act? I don't know. Or are we just
No,
gonna
I
be
don't-
talking about stuff? Agenda stuff.
So this is a board study session that I'd like to bring up a number of issues with the board, including two specific things: safety in our district, and looking at improvement of facilities. And there's any, we can add any additional items that you would like to discuss at that time. But those are the two items that specifically I would like to discuss with the board, specifically updating you where we're at in our current facilities projects, and then looking to the future, spending some of our money that we currently have that can be allocated for new or improvement of facilities, as well as continuing to sharpen our skills in regards to safety and what the next measures that we're going to go after. Our fencing projects at most of our schools have been completed is one example. We're getting current bids for ISHI and OFER, and with those soon being underway, I want to talk about, our next phase of safety measures.
Okay, is there a motion to select February 1st as the board study session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any question or discussion? Okay, move to the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries with 5 yes votes. So item B is the adopt new administrative regulation 4112.23. It sounds like we may need to pull that and revise some of the language.
So we can pull that and look at that specific language and bring it back.
Thank you. All right, and we'll move on to item 11, business and finance, approve local control funding formula, budget overview for parents.
So this evening, Andrew has several pieces with the business and finance, and I've asked him kind of give me a quick overview or summary that I can read to the board tonight. So I will handle kind of all three items at the same time, just for the sake of ease. Budget overview for parents. This is part of the LCAP process. The budget overview for parents gives an overall look at OCESD's finances. This financial information is the same set of information used for the first interim budget. First interim budget, most of my analysis is already given to them in the letter I wrote in the budget packet. If you have specific questions, we can continue to either meet with Andrew individually, or he'll be bringing back an update in our next board meeting. The first interim budget this year is a third update of the original budget. If you recall, we had a 45-day budget revision this year due to the state making major favorable changes to the local control funding formula. Some of the major changes from the original budget and the 45-day budget revision are the 10% ongoing salary increase that are included in this budget. The state and federal government have added a lot of new one-time categorical programs. Due to the high number of these programs on the multi-year projection assumption, page 60, you can see the impacts lumped together as one-time funds. You can see almost $15 million in one-time funds coming in, and most of those funds are going out in year 2 and 3. Our administration is being very strategic with one-time funds, using them to extend successful programs started with COVID funds, and investing in upgrades to facilities and equipment that will reduce future facilities costs and improve the daily life on our campuses. There's also a $4 million transfer out of the unrestricted budget. This represents finally funding our retirement health benefits obligation in a separate fund. The Government Standards Accounting Board made this a liability for school districts in the wake of the Enron scandal many years ago, and now seems like the perfect opportunity to finally address it. The good news is the funds are not spent. just moved to another fund, so we could use these funds should another budget crisis occur. This strategic move I am proposing, we will discuss further at future meetings. Overall, the first interim budget shows OCESD finances are healthy and presents a lot of strategic opportunity, which we will discuss at our board study session. OCESD is voluntarily looking at having our board of trustees elected by areas. This is a proposal from King Consulting, and this is going to be under 11C. OCSD is voluntarily looking at having our board of trustees elected by areas. This is a proposal from King Consulting, who recently did BCOE study and has an office in Chico. To begin this process, the process will require a couple of special board meetings and has specific timelines and rules that the vendor will help us through. This will impact our next election cycle if we begin the work on this now. And those are his 3 items for business and finance.
So my question with King specifically, the boundary services proposals, are we going to end up with the same boundaries as the high school?
So
Go ahead.
I think we're going to say the same thing. I think we should take each item separately and then we can
Copy
talk
that.
more about the King Consulting.
Yeah, so the first one is the LCFF, the local control funding formula, the budget overview for parents. So is there any discussion or questions on the budget overview for parents? Okay, is there a motion to approve the LCFF budget overview for parents?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any other discussion or questions, comments? Okay, we'll move to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries with 5 yes votes. So we'll move on to approve the first interim report of the 2022-23 fiscal year as presented to us. Is there any questions or discussions on this? All right, is there a motion to approve the first interim report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries with 5 yes votes. All right, now we'll move to item C to approve the trustee boundary services proposal.
So the question on the table was from Sandra Barnes, which asked, is this going to mean that our boundaries are going to be the same as the high school? And the answer is no. The reason why is because the high school boundaries take on the whole area of Thermalito, Palermo,
Gotcha.
and Oroville City. We are only going to be looking at the boundaries within our district, which is Oroville City. And so there obviously will be some overlap, but it will definitely be different because
Right.
we'll be looking at a whole different section of just one section of the city versus the 3 districts that the high school district takes in.
Any other questions or discussion on the trustee boundary services proposal?
What benefits, what, can you give me a little more detail about why we're doing this and the value it's bringing to us?
So the reason we're doing this is because there is a movement in the state of California to go to boundary areas instead of areas at large. And so what's going to happen is they're going to look at our geographical area of Oroville or our boundaries of our district. And they're going to break them up into 5 different sections because there's 5 different seats on this board. And they're going to try to balance it based on the number of people. And there's a lot of other things that they will explain to us. But the whole idea is to try to get more equity and diversity into boundary areas. Because a lot of times, depending on the boundaries of your district, you might have a majority of your members come from one single area because it might be more affluent or something like that. And so they're trying to give it better representation of the whole overall area of your district. And so what this could mean for us is in a couple years, depending on where you live and what boundary you live in, you might be going up against each other versus in before it was just at large and it didn't matter where you lived. And it might make it easier for you because you might be the only one that lives in your boundary. And so it's kind of a plus and minus.
And it gives us some control by doing it before it's mandated, that we can take our time.
Well, and there is a I don't know a lot about the background, but there are certain entities that are suing school districts that aren't moving in this direction. And we're being more proactive because we don't want to get sued, because then that will necessitate us to have additional legal fees. And so we're trying to be more proactive in that, and we're starting the process.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the trustee boundary services proposal?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion or questions? Okay, we'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries with 5 yes votes. Okay, item 12, personnel, approve the First Amendment to Assistant Superintendent's employment contract.
So this is an amendment to Janet Hanley's contract to give her a $400 a month vehicle stipend.
Any questions or discussion from the board? Okay, is there a motion to approve the amendment to Assistant Superintendent's employment contract?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? Okay, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? The motion carries with 5 yes votes. Okay, item B, approve client assignment confirmation for part-time registered nurse.
Our new current full-time registered nurse, Erica Ott, has done an outstanding job so far. She started this year as our registered nurse, but we are doing a great deal of catch up from the pandemic. We also have a rise in special ed assessments that need to be taken place. And so we have a huge backlog of work that requires a lot more time than Erica has in her full-time schedule right now. We used to have a once a week consultant who worked for us in past years, but she's no longer available. And we can't really find anybody who's interested. It took us a great deal of time to find Erica. And so we're reaching out to a consultant group that can work 1 day a week and help us on that 1 day a week or as needed to help get us caught up with all of the health records and all the special education evaluations that we need to do.
Do you know if they, I see that this is in Georgia, have they obtained a California credential?
So this is, most of these consulting companies are out of state, but they work with in-state and qualified people. And so
Okay.
the people that we work with are regional people. And these people would be working with us in person. These are not people who are remotely supporting us.
Got it.
These are people who are going to be doing health records and updates and assessments that we need to do specifically in the special ed realm.
All right. Any other questions or discussion on the client assignment confirmation for part-time registered nurse? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion, Questions? All right, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries with 5 yes votes. Item C, adopt resolution 22-2306, 180-day wait period exception.
So we have a employee that is retiring. And typically when they retire, they have to wait a certain amount of time, in this case, 180 days before they can come back and substitute or work for us in another capacity. We're asking the board to give an exception so that we can bring this employee back as soon as possible as needed, because we are short-staffed in this area.
And this board approval will meet the CalPERS requirement,
It,
not affect.
it will,
Okay.
and but we specifically have to have this waiver specifically for CalPERS.
Any questions or discussion from the board? Is there a motion to adopt resolution 22-2306?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries with 5 yes votes. And I will adjourn the meeting at 7 o'clock exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.